don't be afraid to stand in your power and be bold and show them where your passion and your grit and your heart comes from. People relate to that. And then it brings that out of them. When you can give someone else that energy transfer, they get addicted to that feeling and they want more of that. They want to call you.
Welcome to the Grant Wise Show. This podcast helps ordinary real estate agents build extraordinary companies. Let's grow in 3, 2. Hey, what's up, everybody? Grant Wise here. Welcome back to the Grant Wise Show. I am excited for my guest today. I've got Allison Larson on. She is a loan officer with Guild Mortgage. And over the last several years, what is impressive about Allison is she's built a referral-based business and is actually taking over market share while most people are losing market share. She's become one of the top 5 loan officers in the state of Minnesota for purchase business. And I'm excited for our conversation today. So Allison, thank you so much for jumping on the show with me today.
Thank you for having me. You posted something recently and tagged some of the people that you help and work with, and some of the names. I was like, wow, I'm so honored that he wanted to have me on. Carrie Shull being one of them, Shayla, obviously. And it's fun to see some of those leaders in the industry and what they have to say. So it's great to connect with you.
Absolutely. Well, tell us the Allison Larson story. How did you get to where you are today? And how did you get to where you're performing at such a high level in Minnesota there?
Yeah. So rewind, I was in college. I went to the University of Minnesota. I'm from Wisconsin originally, small town, middle of nowhere kind of thing. And I was in college, not being very studious like most of us were in college. And I got a call from a family member who said, hey, I have this internship. Do you have any friends that want to apply for it? And I said, well, is it paid? Can I do it? You're broke. It's college. She said, it's going to be really awful. You probably don't really want it. And like, no, if it's paid, I'm definitely there. And I printed off my resume and got all dressed and went to the office. And I could tell when I sat down there, like, you have a resume? Like, we're just happy someone showed up to help. And this was 2010, 2011. It was literally cold calling for refinances. Funny story. You're in college. I didn't know what a mortgage was. I didn't even know how home ownership worked or anything of the sort. The person's family member who's I was working for, in my head, their name should be the same as my name, but their last name is Wells. And I literally thought I worked at Wells Fargo for like months. So that's how oblivious I was to what a mortgage was. And then slowly worked into different positions on a team. And partway through my senior year of college was like, I was going to go to law school, which was kind of a joke because I really wasn't very studious. And so I had a professor when I went for my letter of recommendation tell me he was happy to write me a letter of recommendation, but he thought I should probably go into sales and not to law school. That would be a giant waste of money. And so partway through my senior year, I figured if there's ever a time to jump into 100% commission business, it's while I'm still living on my student loans. And that is what I did.
Mm-hmm. That's fantastic. And also very funny. I would not have known that you were from Wisconsin until you actually said Wisconsin. And I was like, oh, yeah, okay, I could hear that.
Yeah, I'm very, very Packer fan, very much Wisconsin girl. I graduated with like 80 some people in my high school.
That's awesome.
Very, very small town. Yeah.
I've only been to Minnesota twice. That's not true. I've been 3 times. But one of them was I went to Rochester. I donated a kidney back in 2012. And that was the coldest place I've ever been in my entire life.
That's amazing.
It was a fascinating experience for sure, all the way around. Not just because it was cold, obviously.
I'm assuming at the Mayo.
Yeah. That was one of the most impressive institution I have ever been at. Because I remember when we were going through all of the testing, it was like, they were like, you have, 72 appointments in 2 days. I was like, what? How on earth am I going to get to all of those appointments? And there's this whole like underground city basically that connects everything. I was never late to a single appointment. I was actually early for every appointment. It was wild. It was such a unique experience.
Yeah, we have a lot of people because that's where they do most executive physicals. If you're going to work for a publicly traded company or anything else, that have to go there. And it's the same thing. It's like 70 appointments and X amount of minutes, and they just run you through it. People are always enamored. And it's funny that that's people's experience with Minnesota. And I don't really live by there at all. And people always call them and be like, whoa, and they want to tell, that's like their relatable thing to Minnesota. And it's really not like where we live at all.
That's funny. Okay. So, now it's 2024. Obviously, you're one of the top 5 loan officers. You don't have a very big team. How are you going about building such a great company, mostly referral based, and you're just continuing to scoop up market share while that's not the reality for most loan officers right now?
Yeah. I think I got really, you go through life and you slowly figure out what it's going to take to succeed, or you have to get out and find something else to do. And I would spend all day, every day, kind of like going and just meeting with all of these realtors and just kind of buddy selling. Like, oh, hey, like you have coffee and you make small talk and you do all these things. And everyone really liked me, but these people weren't really sending me business. And I don't think that I was really giving them any reasons to send me business, and was probably just a little scared to show up and say passionately how hard I'm willing to work for their business, all of those things of what sets me apart and what makes me different, until the rubber met the road. And I was like, okay, I need to get paid. This isn't just a hobby. And how am I going to do that? And it was show up, stand in my power, be really intentional, ask the right questions, and show up differently than other people are doing it. I find everyone in our industry goes to seminars and coaching conferences, and we all try and copy what everyone else is doing instead of just taking it and looking at it and going, okay, what in this work could work for me? And how do I spin it to be me, not to be somebody else? And I think that's where you're seeing all of a sudden people who are 20-year plus tenure doing the same things that someone else told them to do that aren't authentic to them, and they're not working anymore because people can kind of see through it. And with the internet at everyone's fingertips, people want more than just a canned person who's doing something that someone else told them to do.
When you say doing things that are more authentic to you, do you mean like the way that you go about getting business and developing those referral based relationships?
Yeah, and yes, and just the way I have a conversation with someone, or from the littlest things, like we're implementing this new all about you form system. And real estate and mortgage, we've all been told we should have this all about you form at the beginning of the sales cycle. And, you fill in like, what's important in this process and what's this and what's that. And also, someone 20 years ago created this form and said, and we should also ask what's their favorite candy and what's their favorite movie and these things. And we're working on implementing it as a team at Guild through our Salesforce and all of that. And I was like, well, I can't have mine say, what's your favorite candy? Because if I sat down with a mortgage professional with my husband and it had to take time out of my day, and someone was like, and now fill out this form and tell me what your favorite candy is, I would be really irritated. It would rub me the wrong way. And so I need to treat people how I want to be treated. I would be happy to share with you what's most important to me about this process, what freaks me out about it, and have my husband, that'd probably be a good exercise for my husband and I to sit and have that conversation going into the meeting. But as soon as it's like, what's your favorite movie? I'm like, I don't know. I haven't had time to watch a movie in like 4 years. I don't know what my favorite movie is. And so just thinking of how someone else wants to receive the information, no different than going to a networking coffee or a real estate agent coffee meeting. So many of us show up and you want to call them these top producing agents, but then we show up and we just have fluffy conversation. They're business professionals. They're busy. They don't need more friends. They need time with their family to sell more houses. Show up and be a business person. Have a business conversation. Don't try and be polite and just make small talk about their kids and their dog.
Yeah, I love what you're saying, because I think a lot of times when people hear you say authentic lately, they go right to tactics and they're like, okay, so I need to create like videos and be authentically myself, or they go right to like social media, or because that's all real estate agents and loan officers have heard for the last like 5 or 10 years, like create video content, be yourself, be authentic. But what I hear you saying is like, no matter what it is that you're doing, do it authentically, like be who you are or who you want to be throughout that process, and you're going to attract and connect with the people that most resonate with that.
And the right people for you, right? Like you're going to connect with people that should be connected with you, not necessarily a bunch of people who you're not really the right fit for. Even on the video content on social media, everyone goes to a conference and then I see 300 loan officers on Instagram posting a get ready with me. While they're talking about mortgage rates, I'm like, what is happening? Like, is it authentically you to be posting your makeup tutorial with interest rates on Tuesday morning? Or is authentically you that you're I guarantee most of the people I saw post the video, it took them 45 minutes of like doing their makeup and redoing their makeup. That's a little different than like being authentically you. If that's not, that would not be authentically me to post that. It just wouldn't be. Maybe it's more authentically me to post my kids doing something weird or funny. That's me. And so I'm going to find people, if I post that, who find that entertaining because they probably follow me, engage me, like me because of who I really am. And I think we miss that mark sometimes because our being authentic is always copying how someone else was authentic.
Yeah. To be able to grow your business and scoop up market share in a more down market means you're building relationships at a high level. And I get that you're building those relationships authentically, but if we go tactically or strategically, what is your strategy? Like, how are you going about developing these relationships?
I'm really, really strategic on the person that I'm meeting with and who I'm targeting to work with. I used to run around town 30 minutes one way and 45 minutes the other day and meet all of these agents who would never probably like me or never be a good fit for my business. Renee Rodriguez says a great quote, person you're best served to help is the person you once were. So who am I best served to help as real estate agents? Probably other young moms, other young single females where I still remember what it's like to feel scared and being the only person paying your bills and trying to build a business, right? I really lean into that. Now I'm kind of getting into a new phase of life where I'm a little more established and can call on a different type of agent as well. But for a while, it was just like, no, I'm going to call on the people I'm best served to help from the phases I was once in or that I'm currently in, because that's going to be the easiest people for me to bring in, relate to, and actually connect on a real level, right? You have to, if you're going to be authentic, you have to find the people who want your authenticity and want you to show up as you. So there's a lot of strategy that goes into it before you just get to have the real relationship. And I think that's the other thing people miss is they try and just force this relationship with everyone. Not everyone is the right fit to be in relationship with you. I don't remember where I heard this, but very early in my career, a coach told me 25% of people will hate you no matter what. 25% of people will never even remember who you are. 25% of people will be fine with you. And 25% of people will just absolutely love you no matter how much you mess up, no matter what you do. Just go find your 25% of people. But I was doing it wrong for so long. I was traipsing around meeting everyone 10 times and trying to make them the 25% of people who love me. Versus we have social media. We have everything at our fingertips. Look them up. Do off the gate. You can probably tell just like by the past clients they're posting sold photos of, by what they do on the weekends, by their stage of life. Does this feel like a natural fit just to begin with? And start with those people. In Minnesota, we have, I think I saw there's 17,000 licensed realtors. That's plenty of people to come through and find people with some similarities.
Yeah. I don't think a lot of people look at this because sometimes people will come to me, we'll get in conversations, even over the last couple of years. And it's like, Grant, my business is down. I don't know what I'm going to do. There's nothing like I don't feel like there's any more business out there for me. And it's like, okay, how much market share do you have? And they're like, well, 0.0003%. I'm like, okay. So
there's plenty of room. Yeah.
There were a lot more homes that sold last month. You just didn't sell them, right? There's still 99.88, whatever the math is. Like, there's business everywhere. Maybe you're just not doing what it is that you need to do to go out there and get it. I think that a point that I hear kind of like coming out of what you're saying is, it sounds like for maybe a minute there was a perception issue or something like that. You just thought that you needed to work with everyone. And then you kind of decided to pivot and then just focus on the 25% of people that you knew would like you. I'm sure there was a lot of fear in that. Kind of walk us through that decision and then ultimately like what happened when you committed to it.
Yeah, I think absolutely. And I was, you're taught when you're young to just like work yourself to the bone because that's what breeds success. And that's totally what I was doing. I would cold call for hours a day. I would run around. Sometimes I'd go meet with people who must have had a license number, and I'd get there and they'd be like, I don't even sell real estate. I'm like, how did you get on this list? Why did you agree to have coffee with me? This is so weird. Yeah. And it was just, I was working myself too thin, and it was just getting me nowhere. And then you slowly have enough people disregard your time and disrespect you and everything else. And then all of a sudden you see one or two people over here who you love working with are great to you and you're way more profitable with those business partners, and you go, hold on a second, I'm doing this wrong. And that was really the eye opener of where I pivoted it. And yeah, it was totally a perception issue. I think so many of us shoot ourselves in the foot before we even walk in the door. We tell ourselves this coffee meeting is going to be a waste of time. They work with so and so anyways. They're never going to refer me business. Oh, they've interviewed 3 other people already. They're never going to choose me. And until you get rid of that mental state and show up and be sure of what you have to offer, I think the biggest thing is right now, especially, people are burnt out and they're put down and their numbers are down. And so they show up like that. They show up desperate and like they are not worthy of being there. And that's not the case. There's a reason this person met with you and is considering you for their real estate agent or for their mortgage or to refer you business. Lean into those reasons and make sure they understand that. But don't be afraid to stand in your power and be bold and show them where your passion and your grit and your heart comes from. People relate to that. And then it brings that out of them. When you can give someone else that energy transfer, they get addicted to that feeling and they want more of that. They want to call you, right? They want to be the person that they have their deals with because you're there cheering each other on. It's more, that's why people love team sports. It's because we're all in this together. And so just shifting your mental mindset, I think, is the biggest piece of that.
I'm hearing, and I have throughout our conversation, I've heard you use specific words, specific language. And so this is definitely a loaded question, but how important has coaching and mentorship and those types of things been to your success?
I'd say really important. I actually kind of struggled to find a space in coaching or the right mentor, or I just was kind of always looking for it. I'd do a coaching program for a year or two, and then it wasn't the right fit, or you kind of see behind the veil of some of these coaches and you're like, dang it, you told me all these things and you don't really do any of these things. Or you're just being told to tell me these things. And so finding the right leader or the right mentor who's actually in it, doing it, built the business this way. That's the reason I went to Guild, is literally Shayla. I was just like, this is what I need to get me to this next phase of life. I was able to build it to here. I have no idea what it looks like to build it past here, and I need to learn it from somebody. And she's a mother who's built $1 billion business, and I've never seen anyone build $1 billion business. I need to be able to learn from that. And it's funny, as soon as you align with someone, the growth you can see along the way is crazy. I mean, we went from being consistently good producers to where I was like, yeah, we'll be lucky to close 60 to 70 million this year. And Sheila's like, I think you're going to close 80 to 90 easy. I'm like, well, let's not get crazy. But it's having someone else help pave the way. I always say it's similar to I felt like I was running a marathon always before, where you're just kind of running it on your own. And imagine running so many miles all on your own, and you're looking around to see, like, is anyone else still running? Am I on the right road? Am I running the right direction? And you spend so much time just looking for what other people are doing and that reinforcement. And now or anyone, if you're plugged into the right mentorship and coaching, you're not running a marathon by yourself. You're running from point A to point B, and you've got someone at either sides cheering for you and then handing you a baton and telling you exactly what to go do next. That's way easier than running a marathon by yourself.
Mm-hmm. 100%. For those of you that don't know, she's talking about Shayla Gifford, who is one of the top loan officers in the country with Guild Mortgage, is a wonderful human being, and I think does a lot of great stuff for the mortgage industry. Is there anything that you've learned working with somebody like Shayla, somebody that's coaching, leading, guiding, and directing you, that kind of surprised you? Like earlier you said, I thought whenever I first got started, I just had to work my butt off. And then eventually I kind of learned that, well, if I would be more strategic about, who I was going to be. Is there anything that you learned about growing your business in the real estate industry, the mortgage industry, that kind of surprised you? Like, oh, maybe this isn't as hard as I thought it was, or maybe I shouldn't have been doing this. I should have been doing this.
I think the biggest thing is we all kind of look up and emulate the people we see on podcasts and on stages at coaching programs and masterminds and all these things. They're all totally normal people who chose to believe in themselves, chose to show up and work 40 hours a week and work hard on their business, and chose to be strategic and consistent. That is literally it. You could listen to any person, most successful person in the world's podcast, and they all have the exact same messaging: how to time block, how to be consistent, Show up for yourself 40 hours a week and run your business. Don't just work in your business, work on your business. Everyone has the exact same messaging. Sometimes it's just finding the right person who scripts it the same or does it the same that resonates with you, that it's a little easier to latch onto.
Mm-hmm. Sounds like a very similar lesson to you going out into the marketplace and developing referral relationships.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Marketing 101, like you could go buy 1,000 marketing books from all over the world, and they would say like step one, know who you're marketing to, know who you want, because we all live in fear of perception, especially people do today. 10 years ago, and you could still do this today, a lot of people do, you would just get on the phone and you would make calls, and that's how you would get a lot of your business. But with the progression of social media and content and all of these things that have come about, there's been this like new perceptive fear, like I don't want to do all this stuff because maybe people won't like me. And when the reality is, no matter how you show up, what you said is true. 25% of people will hate your guts. 25% will like you a little less. 25% will like you a little more. And 25% will be your raving fans. And this happens no matter what. Like it happens no matter how perfect we try to be. So I love the lesson here is that really just know who it is that you want to work with. Most often that's a reflection of yourself. And so it's kind of in a roundabout way, permission to just be yourself, because you are going to attract what it is that you put out into the world.
And I think sometimes I think a lot of people don't even know themselves anymore. They get so consumed with Instagram and social media that they don't even know who they are. They're so busy trying to be someone else's brand and someone else's character and all of these things. Like, who are you? Because if you just lean into whoever you are, that'll work for you. I can't tell you how many times I've been at conferences and I'll have some 65-year-old guy picking my brain about Instagram videos. I'm like, you're probably never going to have a ton of success on Instagram. Do you even have an Instagram account? Right? Like that's not who you are. Like, let's not start there. Just call your contacts, call your past clients, right? Little things like that, I think, make a huge difference. But again, we all go to things, we try and latch onto ideas, and we just have to find the things that resonate with us and that you'll actually implement. I had a coach previously, Cindy Ertman, who runs an awesome coaching program too. I did a year-long program with her. And she does this exercise where you are in a group of 12 or 15 that you've coached with for the whole year. So you get pretty close with this group of people and you have a hot seat. So you're in the hot seat for 10 or 15 minutes and she just goes through your business just in front of everybody for 10 or 15 minutes. And then other people can add in advice, or you can just listen and everyone's issues are relatable. And I was always taught like I should have, essentially, if I'm not meeting with someone, I should be on the phone making cold calls and I should be doing this and whatever. And for whatever reason, I just wasn't doing it. And so we dug into why don't you do it? I'm like, I don't know, like the 2 hours of calls just seems, she's like, okay, why don't you do 30 minutes of calls every single day? And it was just those little tweaks where then since that moment, I came back and I do my 30 minutes of calls every single day. Half the time it leads into 2 hours of calls, but it was just the mundaneness of being told by other people, it needs to be 2 hours. And you sit down and you're like, well, I don't have 2 hours now, so I'm not going to do it at all. It's just finding someone who can see you a little bit different, can really think through your business, align with where you're trying to go, and lean into that and help you. And I think sometimes if you don't have that individual attention from a leader, we get a little lost in the shuffle there too.
100%. Business isn't as complicated as we make it all out to be.
No, it definitely isn't.
I say this all the time. Business is simple. People are complicated. We've been growing companies in the mortgage space, in the real estate space, in the investment space, in the title space, pretty much the exact same way for decades. But then there's all these new tips and tricks and shiny objects and things that people have introduced to the equation. Have you seen this where as the industry has really, I think, kind of turned on a dime over the last couple of years, and it's not as great as it was, that you find yourself going back to just more of the basic blocking and tackling? If I make these calls for 30 minutes a day or 2 hours a day, I know for a fact I'm going to continue to be sick. Like, have you seen a kind of like a reversion back to what we know works and an avoidance of all of the shiny objects?
Yeah, I literally have. Here's my old school greatness tracker on my desk from me making all of my phone calls and tracking my face-to-faces and how many leads did we bring in and all of those things. I mean, I still track every time I talk to someone Every time I see someone face to face, any of those things I track to a T consistently. I think because of social media, and it feels way easier to DM somebody or to like or comment, and then people try to use that as their communication, like check it off my list. I talked to so many people today. And it's totally muddied the waters and gotten people out of where actual things happen. I think social media is great for marketing, staying in front of people, reminding people who already have talked to you that they like you and keeping them informed, and taking a totally cold contact and then hopefully getting them on the phone or getting them face to face. I think it's awesome. But I think a lot of people have gotten stuck in the weeds with, like you said, trying to overcomplicate. They're spending half their day editing a reel versus spending half their day belly to belly with people, sharing real life stories on how they can help your clients.
Yeah. I know that I noticed the same trend. If I go to events 2 to 3 years ago, everybody's talking about this innovation and this tech and this thing and that thing. And I went to an event recently last week, and it was the general thesis of the entire event was stop everything that you're doing. Just focus on having 5 2-minute conversations a day. If you can do that, you're going to be unbelievably successful no matter what's happening in the marketplace. And so,
yeah. And so many people just aren't even having conversations anymore.
Yeah. What do you think that is?
I think people got kind of scared. And I think when you feel down, it's a really easy time to feel like you just get in your own space and your own insecurity. With COVID, everyone was at home, and it feels like a bigger hurdle to pick up the phone and call someone. And social media is easy. You can hide behind a screen in this potentially fake image you've created of your life and this veil that you get to hide behind and message people and let them be whoever you want to be, versus just picking up the phone and hoping. And given people don't answer quite as much as they used to and all of that. But in my head, I'm like, well, if I have liked 5 of their posts and I've sent them a DM, and then later that day I also call and text them, at least they know who I am when I call. So it's not as cold of a call. And I do get a warmer engagement to that coffee meeting or to that client appointment, whatever it is. And so it should be a tool that we utilize, absolutely, but it just can't be something we hide behind. And I think that people are scared. And when your numbers are down, I forget the average stats on real estate and mortgage professionals, but I know for mortgage professionals, the average loan officer made less than $30,000 last year. You're not feeling like you're on $1 million, like you're worth $1 million and you want to go work with the number one realtor if you could make more working at Starbucks. That's just the reality of it. You don't feel like you're on your A game. And so how do you get yourself out of that mental space and mental challenge to get past that, to push yourself? You either have to dig deep and push through it, or for some people, I think, pivot careers or whatever that'll be. But I think people just want to take the easiest, least threatening option, which is usually a DM to someone who can leave them unread. And then that's not weird.
Yeah. And I think this is also a reason why your environment is so important. I wrote a big email about this in my Wise Weekly newsletter recently about how your environment will really determine the outcomes that you have in your life, or it can determine the outcomes in your life. And I think it was Steve Harvey, I heard him tell this story. He said, if you take an oak tree and you plant it in a 2-foot pot, the tree will only ever grow to the extent that it is capable of growing in the 2-foot pot. But if you take that same tree and you go plant it in a field, it'll grow to be hundreds of feet tall. And for people that maybe listen to this and are where we're describing, like, business isn't great, I don't feel great about myself, really pay attention to your environment. And are you surrounding yourself with people that are pouring life into you and working to support you, coach you, consult you, whatever? Or are you working in an environment that is kind of sucking you dry and leaving you feeling like maybe this isn't the right career path for me?
And sometimes I don't even think we realize it. Previously, there was the company I was at, which I loved, and they're all amazing people, but there was a lot of like market updates and a lot of like, it's going to be really bad, and winter is here, blah, 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 like just preparing us and being real with us. And I didn't realize in the moment how much that was actually slowing me down until I was out of it. And then hindsight, I'm like, I can tell you the market's slow. I didn't need to get on a call for an hour once a week to hear about it. And all that did was be like, well, I guess why would I call anybody else? Because if they're slow, everybody's slow. So I guess I'll just wait it out. And it shifts versus when you're surrounded by other people who are all succeeding at such a high level and powering through no matter what the market. Tom Ferry Coaching talks a lot about, I let's try to listen to podcasts from all different sides of the industry to always stay up to speed on stuff. And they'll talk a lot about how market conditions will always be there. Like, oh, wait, we had market conditions. 2016, we have market conditions. 2024, we've got market conditions. The one thing that's stable is who we know, how we show up in our business, and the things that move the needle for us, and how often are we working on the things that actually move the needle. That's literally it. So to dwell on the market conditions we're in, they're not going anywhere. And when we're out of this market, it's like complaining about the weather. It'll be just another day and we'll be all complaining that now everything's in 50 multiple offers and oh my gosh, it's this and that. And I can't get anything to closing because everyone's canceling because of this. It's always going to be something. The market's always going to be there. Our business just has to adapt and change to it.
100%. As much as stuff changes, it stays the same. Like at the end of the day, no matter what's happening in the market and how it changes, what stays the same is the fact that if you make X number of conversations a day with the people in your database, your business will grow. If everybody in the market was down, it would be like, okay, this is bad. This is not a good time. But some people are growing and some people are not. And that's black and white. That's just the reality. So if some people are growing and some people are not, that means some people are picking up market share and some people are not. What's the difference? Well, one person is doing what they're supposed to be doing and the other person is making excuses. At the end of the day,
That's 100%. 100%. And even, you think of people who will get out of this industry and go take a W-2 job somewhere and work 40 to 50 hours a week for a set amount of money and have to go to an office and do all those things. But there's so many real estate and mortgage professionals who I don't know if they've ever tried like just going to the office for themselves for 40 hours a week and working on their business to move the needle forward, because they would probably make double whatever they would at that W-2 job just by actually working 40 hours a week on their business. Yeah.
Love it. Allison, this has been a fantastic conversation. I appreciate it so much. Wrapping up here, if somebody was listening to this and they just felt like they were just an ordinary person out there trying to make it, what do you feel like is their first step towards building something extraordinary?
I think the first step is understanding why you're building it and if that's really what you want to be building. Especially in real estate and mortgage, I think a lot of people got into it because it was fast and easy money for a really long time. If you don't love sales and you don't love being in this business, then maybe this isn't the business for you, or maybe rethinking about your why and what motivates you and what gets you excited in this business will then make you realize this is the needle mover for me. And this is what I can spend my time focusing on, and completely pivot your business so you are one of those people growing in this market and not sitting on your hands watching everyone else kind of fly by and having that panic moment.
Great advice. Allison, thank you so much. I appreciate you taking the time. I know you're very busy, and I'm grateful that you could come on and chat with me for a bit today.
Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Awesome. Thank you all for continuing to listen to The Grant Wise Show. Do not forget to like, rate, review, subscribe, and we'll see you on the next episode. Thanks. Thanks for listening to this episode of The Grant Wise Show. Please don't forget to subscribe to this channel, leave us a review, and we'll see you on the next episode. Thanks.